took my laptop and must say that it's not going to come yesterday. So I have to just improvise. I don't find an alternative. So I'll be using the board. I think that's where we are coming from. Right from primary school, I've been seeing the board. I'm not so sure if you managed to like what you have done. Do you have somewhere where you think that maybe we need to explain further if you have gone through what we have done? Because I've got something in mind. I remember that we went through, but I also talked about, if you remember, the types of the same note taking, whereby we talked about mind mapping. I don't know if people were clear, but still, it can start from you. What's happening to this one? Right. So, anything else of specific from what you have done that maybe you can say, or I just have to go through what I wanted to. If you remember, we talked about this. I said that in terms of note taking, you can have different ways, the way you wanted it to approach it, right? And it will depend sometimes on maybe the type of information you are getting. Sometimes it will depend on maybe the context where you are. You know that according to this context, I think this style could be the best style, right? So it's not a must to say you have to follow a particular method, but it's the best to just at least know these different types of methods so that you can have a chance to select. Then last time I think I went through the Cornell system. At least I went through into some details. Then I talked about outlining. If you remember, I talked about outlining as one of the methods. Then Cornell method. Then if you can check in the slides, you notice that the methods not taken. That is this. We talked about from last week the ones that the outline, then talk about the Cornell method. Then there was this mind mapping, right? We talked about this before the time. Right, so according to what we did last time, on the revision, I didn't talk much about this, but I explained it a little bit that time before. So I just wanted us to like revise again. Also, there's a slide, but I think these were the ones that were supposed to be concentrated on. And the mind mapping, we talked about it as I do believe we know a map. It's like if we know what a map is, right? It's like you are taking notes in a form of a map, whereby you, outline the details in a format that looks as if you are drawing a map, right? But it's a way, right? And assume, let's see, give an example like here, whereby you say if there is a main idea, like maybe food crisis as a main idea, right? Then you could put this as a food crisis, right? Then under food crisis, then you discover, you said, okay, there are some other maybe factors that affect this. Then you could take factors like maybe money. If you say money, then you put like money like here. Then maybe climate change. So then if it's like this, then you're going to be, you say climate change, right? Then you put another factor maybe here. Now this could be placed like maybe even here. You can even connect them if a dot, if you line, if you want. Then you put another one. If this one has got maybe, or this one has got the main, for example, this is the main topic. Now it has got a subtopic, right? If these have got these subtopics again, the best way could be then you could do, I mean, because these are a number of them. If they are falling under one major, let me say, factor, okay, if you say lack of something, then if they are falling, these three are falling under major factor, then it's better. Best you can do, you have this one, then it can come maybe down here. You have the major factor here. Another minor factor from here, you will come like here. So what you will do, major one, under this as a sub, under this sub, maybe there's another one here. Then if this has got its factors, you can be now putting them aside. Like maybe there's this, you can even put the arrow. There's this, even you can put arrows like this, but at least show that they are coming from this sub point. You put another one here. If this one has got another point for this, you bring it somewhere maybe here. If this point is related to maybe all of them, you could put it maybe here and link it to this, right? But at least if you connect these lines, you know that, okay, lines are connected from here. And you can even put the arrows to make sure that maybe you know where they are going, okay? And then this, because they're coming from here, you could even put the arrows pointing down to say it's from here, major point, then you have sub point. If maybe there are other elements, so if it will be just like more or less like a web, but it's as if you're drawing a map. But the way you are connecting, the connections will be showing where they are coming from, right? Whereby when you see it, you say, okay, this was connected to this, it was under this, and this was under this. But if you're going down, it means it's just main, sub. And if there are some other connections that are also to the same, but maybe different to this, you could even put them that side, then link them again. So it's something like this. That's what they talk about mind mapping. But the element here, it means you need to be sure. You need to be careful the way you are connecting the points, whereby they should not confuse you to say, okay, where this point, where is it connected? But at least if you do this, maybe one of the elements is it would be quicker if you are hearing, maybe taking notes from somewhere to say, okay, instead of trying to organize the notes, if you just start from the top to say, okay, what's the main idea? Oh, this is the main idea. Okay, then what's the supporting idea of this? Okay, this is the main one, right? Under this, what do you have? Then you'll be connecting. Okay, under this connection, do we have anything that's a link to the sub? Then you'll be going, right? So I think if you check even in your notes, see that here on the mind mapping, when the lecturer's notes or content is intense, right? This could be one of the good ways. If there's too much information and a little bit complicated, to try to demarcate them, it would be easier to be trying to connect the notes using this type of way, because you could just be seeing. And I think if you notice in this one, you don't have to write so many information, too much information, because you might end up confusing yourself, right? And also, as I said, that you have to not just start by writing anything. You have to start by writing the main topic, right? You should know that at the top, which is going to be a little bit a bigger, maybe circle or area, you can put it should be the main one. And going down, there should be supporting, then linking to the other supporting, something like that, right? So in terms of the advantages, I think we talked about it already, whereby say, I mean, it looks what they call visually appealing, right? At least it looks almost like attractive in the eyes. It's as if you are looking at the drawing, right? So because of that, it is a little bit visually appealing, unlike just looking at text, right? So that can be, maybe people could call it an advantage to say, okay, because it's looking okay, and also this one, as I said, that it can, like I say, it can be used for noting down detailed information, but in a concise form. If there are detailed information, but in a certain way whereby you don't want to have a lot of information, but you want to join them. So that could be an advantage. But the disadvantage could be the obvious, right? Because it's as if you are drawing, assuming that you are drawing a picture of, or let me say, you are drawing a figure of a person or a tree or something. Now, where you are going to start drawing, is if you know about drawing something, you have got a problem of scale, right? Whereby if you say, okay, let me start, I want to draw the tree. So if you start a tree from here, if it's big, you end up to discover that when you start to draw a trunk, there's not enough space down here. It will end up looking like a shorter, a dwarf tree, right? Or maybe you started drawing it okay here, but this side, because if you see the way we were doing here, imagine if you have got this main point here, then you connect it, there's a sub point here. Now, under sub, there's maybe this one, there's this one, then there's another one here connected to this one, there's another one, you want to connect it again. So where are you going to go here? You discover that you end up, there's no space this side. So this could be okay. Maybe in other circumstances, I'm saying, for if you know that this information would be better remembered by having this method, because this could help you in your remembering. It's as like the way you see drawings, whereby you have got notes, then because it's too complex, you can have a diagram somewhere. So this it's like you are drawing a diagram of the notes, so it can help you in that way. But when it's you have line out of space, right? Like you talk about if you have limited this page, it can be a problem, right? Two, if the information now, let me say that there is a specific amount of information, but now if the information is too much, it might now become confusing, because you might follow it from the top. Then along the way, you might discover that somewhere maybe you are getting confused because of where these other connections are, depending on maybe how much information is available, right? So can be confusing if the information is maybe sometimes wrongly placed, because that's the issue. You, like the way you do when you are writing notes, you have made a mistake, you can correct it in a notes on a line, right? But imagine if this one, you are coming from the top, everything is okay, but now you have put wrong information here, and these other backing information now they are joining to the wrong information. So you end up to figure out, so where can this be connected? Because it's just like connections. While when you have the way we have other approaches whereby you write maybe a sentence, you could maybe even guess by reading the sentence to say, okay, I think maybe this is a problem. So this mind mapping approach could have that particular problem, right? But there will be some circumstances, as I'm saying, that this could be effective, right? And if you look at it, if you can maybe think about, or maybe, let me just say, I don't know if I can say guess, but have a picture of the amount of information that is going to be presented, and the amount of information that you are going to put on the page. If you can think about it, okay, I think in this one, I just have to on a page, I should include these facts or this information. It can be helpful. Yeah, because sometimes, as I say, you could reach this stage at the bottom of the page, while you are trying to connect something, then you discover that it cannot fit, you have to go to another page. So in that way, it can be a little bit confusing. So this is the about this mind mapping. Uh, and if you check on the slides, you have some example of this. I think it should be examples of this type. Then after this, we also talked about the, okay, somebody was saying something on this. Anything? Is anything making sense here? Because what we wanted to say, what I want to say, like if it's like this, you should. I think if you have seen the example, you should know exactly what we are talking about, right? I think you have seen something like this before, even in your academic books. You see somewhere where they are trying to explain information. You see this type of connection of points. The idea from that is the same idea of the mind mapping, whereby they just wanted like to like take the notes and try to draw something out of the notes for you to be seeing it as a drawing. So, oh, this, that, there's this. So it's somehow you see in that way for a person maybe you are having a problem to understand the notes. If they can put it in this format, you can at least link some points. So, oh, this one is linking to this one. Yeah. So that's why what I'm talking about, right? Um, then right. Right? Yeah, so yeah, yeah, no. It depends because what we're talking about here is it's not going to be on one page, right? It's like the way you write notes, whereby you can write it, maybe it's a Jurugisa, maybe my page, maybe 10, 15, it can happen, but you'll be planning on a page. Could my page information, it means cover page. It's just like the way, I don't know, I wanted to be linking to people, to journalism, where people, I mean, who write news on radio, TV. Let me say on radio and TV, whereby they say when you are writing a sentence, if you know this sentence is not going to be completed on this page, don't write it on this page, right? Because it can confuse the reader. If somebody is reading, then before finishing, discover that the sentence is ended, it's on another page. What is going to happen? There's going to be a pause, right? So there can even be a confusion, or somebody could think it's a full stop. So that's where just to say you have information, then you just think about the information you know can fit on this page. If there are more information, then you have to go to the other page. But that could be, as I was saying, that's maybe one of the tricky part of it. I know that what we're trying to make a summary, right? That's maybe one of these, because if you connect the information here, when you go to the other page, you should know where the continuation, maybe book, this information, where is it linking to the other page? There should be proper, I mean, connections, or maybe pages should be near. But the thing is, no wonder I said that you will listen to somebody. You have to come up with what is the main concept, right? If you know what that's the main concept, then it should be at the center from there. The others should be having like you break them down. How many maybe points are going to be there will depend on maybe the topic, but I don't think one topic could have like, let me say, maybe 10. There can be a sub point, maybe one sub point. Then this one maybe having maybe 10 of them, right? So if it's going to be like that, then you need to know where you're going to write about, about it, or this particular information. But if there are going to be more, still, you should indicate where that particular information is coming from. If it's coming from this sub point, what the trick for this one is just to link it with a line, whereby you link it that is coming from here. If the points are similar, they're going to be on the same. There's going to be another one here, maybe here, or you can even some they cannot even put these circles. Some they can just the way point like this, they'll just write maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, but they know that it's coming from here. Then from there, if there this information have got another let me say information sub points of this should come down, or maybe this side, whereby there should be a line connecting to this one. Well, the idea is when you look at the nodes, you should know where it is linking, which point. Because if you don't have these lines, you will not know where is this coming from. But if you know that this one is these ones, there's an arrow coming from here. You know these are coming from here. And normally, as I said, that if you start from the top, it should be going down. Because you can't have a main point down, then a supporting point up, then you can get confused. But it all depends on what topic you are covering. That's why we have got all these type of, formats, methods, because it's not a must to say you have to use this one. If you have to use this one, there should be a reason why you are using this one. If you know that you are going to have a problem, to say, if I can use this one, I will have a problem because maybe the information is this way. Okay, try other methods, because there are still other methods, right? But there will be circumstances, I'm telling you, whereby this could be effective, whereby you don't need to write, there's so much information, but because they are complex, and you know that if you just write them, you're going to get confused to connect some other points. Yourself, you can decide, okay, maybe this one could be easier. Because the outline, if you remember, the outline is one of the easiest one. Again, if there's too much complex information, the outline, if you remember what we talked about, it clearly show you which point is under what point. If you remember, we talked about in the outline mainly you utilize maybe capital letters, lower case letters, maybe numbers. So those are going to tell you that, okay, if there's a capital letter, if there's one, which is a capital one, major one, right? It's going to be like if you are talking about A, B like this, C. If they are going to be one like this, two. Usually you put this under maybe many points, right? If you say there's a small a, small b, maybe a one like this, a Roman numeral like this one usually you use them as supporting in that one. And in this one, if you remember, you usually indent. There's like an element of this, right? Like this, right? Whereby the main point is going to come here, the supporting is going to come here of this one. This one is going to, if these are ended, another main point is coming, then it's also going to start here again. And there's going to be another this, right? So it will be main point, support up to the last supporting point. We talked about that already, right? So in this one, it will be now this element whereby you just have a main point. And this one I'm saying, it could be from this approach. Some could take this one and put it at the center. At the center, no, not like at the top. They could draw it like when you say boxing, they will put it at the center here. Now they'll be linking. If maybe there are, maybe let me say, if there are so many points linking to the same information, maybe there are, let me say, 10 of them. 10 points under this food crisis. So if you know that if I'm going to connect 10 points from here to here, then it's not going to be enough, right? So what you can do, some people do, they will put it at the center. Like, let me say this is the main one. Now they will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Now they will indicate one here, they will have is supporting, another one here is supporting, another one here is supporting, something like that. So still the clue in this format is just connections, as if the way you have seen a map. Somebody can tell you, this person stays. So how do you know? You follow the roads. There's this road, and this one is coming from this. And usually they show direction. If it's they are telling you, it's from this place to that place. There will be arrows showing going to where you are going. right? So it is the same thing whereby you draw your own arrows to say, this point is coming from here. This point is coming from here, something like that. And this one, as I said, once you know what is happening, you can even use it in your own way, as long as you know where the points are coming from. That's the idea. And to just sum it up, if you remember that when we're talking about note taking, we are talking about not copying, not copying the notes, the whatever is the person is speaking, right? This is it's like you are coming up with a summary, right? So when you're coming up with a summary, as we say that you should be able to know what to take down and what to leave out, because you don't have to copy everything. So the ability to do that will be the ability to know which is the main point, right? And we already talked about that. That how do you know which information to take down if you are taking notes? We talked about it. We said, if, for example, I'm speaking about something, then I'm writing the way I'm doing here. Usually, I'll be writing the information that is important, right? Some of the information I'm not going to write. I'll just speak about it. You might say, okay, but if I write it here, you know that this is a key. Or maybe I don't write it, but I'm repeating the same information. Then you know this is an important information, right? Or if I don't repeat it, maybe I wrote it, I've written a lot of information, but I've underlined one information, and you know that's one of the important. Or if it's in a text, that is meant that assuming that maybe you are you want to make notes, and now, or maybe I'm showing a presentation. Now there's a way, there are words that are in the body, right? There are body words. You know, if it's a bold, or maybe it's italic, or it's I've been indicated, I've placed it as a headline, right? You know that all the headlines are important. So what you do here is the same thing. The main one is a main headline. Then these supporting are going to be like subheadings. So you'll be connecting a subheading. Yeah, but you need to be careful. I'm saying that how you can be careful about this, if there are points that are similar, right? You should not connect them on the levels whereby they are, connecting with maybe the points that are not on the same level. For example, if you have started from the top, if this is the format, to say there's another one, under one, then you are putting the information, which is just a supporting. For example, if there's a supporting for this one, then you bring it and write another bigger circle here. So people will think, is it this one? Maybe another main point like this one. But if it's going to be connected in a certain way, right? But for your information, it's just a matter of depending on what kind of information, because you cannot have limited. You say you just have maybe to include this number of points. It's not the same. You will cover different topics, right? So according to the topic that you're going to be covering, is the one that is going to determine. You say, okay, I think this one could work or not, right? I don't know if I've been answering your question. Yeah, okay. So that's just about it. I think I talked about it already. Then I was saying that we talked about there's what was called, or what is called, the boxing method, which is another approach over. Do I have this? Where did it go? The eraser. Okay, there's the boxing method whereby okay, I think it has disappeared. It's similar to this a little bit, but not the same similar. Usually this one, because of the name, you can see the boxing. You use boxes, right? Maybe you have seen this before. An example of this one for you, maybe to connect it. You have seen these, what do you call them? These sticking papers, I don't know. There are these yellow papers where people, you say they are busy, they'll be writing information, then they'll stick it somewhere. You have seen something like that one, This is similar to that one, whereby, assuming you have got those yellow papers, why do you have them maybe a small paper? The reason is, you don't want to confuse information. So what they do, this one, they'll say, you can have boxes. So what they do, each box, you'll be writing information that are related to that one, right? Maybe there's one point. That point, you write a point here, then anything that is connected to that point, you'll be writing in one box. If there's another information which is different from this one come, you write another box somewhere, right? Then you write that information in that box. Then there's another information that is different from that one, because you know that when you combine them, you might confuse them. So you know that, okay, if I got one box, there are information that are related, right? If you go to the other box, so this is another method that people could do. You say, okay, I'll be just point. If it's okay, today we're going to talk about maybe Lake Malawi, right? Maybe fish, maybe chambo or fishes of Lake Malawi. So I've got different type of fish, species of fish in Lake Malawi. Jambo is one of them. Then let's talk about Jambo. Then you have a box, Jambo. Everything that is going to be talked about Jambo, you put it in one box. Then, okay, this time we talk about, is it Mulamba? Then you create another box for Mulamba. Then you talk about, okay, Mulamba, Mulamba. Then another information came, then you also put another box somewhere. So that's an approach that some people use. You can see the idea is not to confuse information. You know that, okay, this information is related to this one is related. So it might have its advantages. It might also have its disadvantage. You can even just guess, okay, you might have some disadvantage. One of them, what could be advantage? You are not going to usually confuse information. Like if there are information related to any certain maybe point, they are going to be in one place, right? So when you are reading about that information, it's easier for you to know, okay, this is the same thing. Like here, let me just say what this is. This method might still be widely unknown, but it gains popularity sometimes there. And the same say here, there are people who usually use this. Maybe I gave an example of, those sticking notes. But if you have got a gadget like this, like iPads or even tablets, other tabs, they have got software packages whereby you have these sticking notes like this, whereby you can write on the sticking notes this information like a box. So they can rearrange, right? You can command it to rearrange the information, so it can rearrange the information for you. That okay, this information, if you are talking about one thing, they are arranged like this, right? So nowadays, as you know, that we have got so many software packages that are coming up to do a lot of things. So for people who have got that ability to say, okay, I've got maybe a computer or a tab that has got this capability. Although the original idea was not to say you should use an application. It was just the way I'm talking about it. Just writing boxes, then connecting. I try to connect. Well, that's another challenge. That if you have so many boxes with information, you need to be, clear to try to link them. You say, okay, how are these boxes linked? Because each box alone, you could understand it because everything is in one box, right? But to try to connect it to another box, that's where the challenge is, right? So, like yes, if you say like on the advantage, on the pros, say it segregates and organizes your notes in the form of boxes. So it's like there's that element of the ability of segregating the notes, being able to know the separation of notes, information, right? And more or less like you're organizing your notes, right? And also it lets you focus on one box at a time while you're reading. You want to read about maybe one thing, it means when you go to one box, you concentrate on information in one thing, right? You go to another box, you'll be only information connected to that one. So in that one, it would be an advantage to say, okay, you'll be focusing on one area, then you go to the other, focus on another area, and also it helps you memorize the relation between notes in a visual way. If you know, it's all about you who is writing. So when you start writing boxes, it means you might know that, okay, boxes mean maybe I'm many points. They are in Malayish. right? Then I'll put a one box here. If these are the boxes of supporting points, I'll not put them in this line. I'll put them maybe down. So if you remember that, it can help you to recall that, okay, it's as if you're seeing similar to a mind map, like as if it's something that has been drawn, then you are seeing that, oh, this information are going down, right, this, right? So as I say, that is all, maybe that could be an advantage for people who have got maybe iPads and all these gadgets. Would be a perfect, type of taking notes. On the disadvantage, which are the cons, are not suitable for every type of lecture, right? It's not all the time, because this could be easier, as well. Say you have got one point that has got so many information, right? It will be maybe good. But imagine if maybe there's just one information, then there's a different information, and then if you talk about maybe five, they are different information. Not this, the close under one maybe idea. So then it means you have to write 5 boxes for just one area. Then you have to write another 5 boxes. It will be a problem. But this could work much more if you have got one point, then it has got maybe 4 points under it, right? Then you have one box, you write all those, you're finished, you go to the other one. So it could be appropriate for that, but it's not all in all lectures that can be helpful. And also, what else is yes? It talks about it doesn't work well if no overall topics can be assigned to a group of notes. So that's similar, exactly what I'm talking about. That if there is nothing like an overall topic, it's just something that is information that are connected, right? Whether you can have situations whereby information are just related, right? And so because of that, you can't have many idea one somewhere to just connect it. So it could be a problem again. And also here say it requires additional time to group the notes in the end or during the lecture. So once you are putting boxes, to have that now time to say, okay, these notes, these boxes are for this. You need to take a little bit more time, right? So that could be that disadvantage for this. But as I said, the easiest way for you to know which is a good method, according to the context, there could be situations whereby you could see that I've been a position this person. I think I'll be confused if I just going to be writing anyhow. Let me just use this one. Box says then I'll write information. Even some they go to the extreme because there's I remember somewhere whereby some could literally have papers, right? The way I talked about, like you have a paper, one paper, writing one information. Then after finishing, you put it aside and take another paper for another information, right? So it's similar to that way, but it's like a box, then you combine. So we talked about that. And this one, the other one, I think I'm not going to spend much time because or even this one, I've been talking about the boxing, the mapping. If you check your notes, usually you find them, they do use this approach in notes, most of these educational books. And you even get easier maybe understanding of information if they try to use one of these, right? Information. If you check even in your slides, we have another one that was called the chatting method. So the chatting, this is like a chat. If we talk about the charts, we're talking about as if maybe you have drawn let me say this, maybe what can I use? Charts. If you talk about graphs and all other graphical materials, illustrations that are used to include information or to demonstrate information. Okay? But usually the chatting of this one, usually thinking about if you can have maybe what you call like maybe a chart like this one, right? Whereby you have your table, eh? Because the table is one of the charts. Most of the people, they use it like using a table. So you have a table. The way you have seen some other information, even the notes, whereby you have tables, they will display, they will talk about, let me say, advantages and disadvantages of something. So you have notes. So somehow you can have a problem to be reading from the top to downwards. So what if you say, okay, you write a table like this one and you say maybe advantages, disadvantages, right? If there are two things. Now, in here, you'll be writing advantages, here you'll be writing disadvantages, like against each other, right? So you can use it in any way you want, but you use like maybe like a table, and easier where you can easily see that, okay, this is falling under here, this is falling under here. So you just listen to what the person is saying. If he's talking about the disadvantages, you put under disadvantage. If he's talking about maybe, and you have to be able to know that, if, for example, the sections, what are the sections? Okay, there are advantages, there are disadvantages, maybe there are effects. Maybe if there are four, then it means it's going to be maybe advantage, disadvantage. Usually, you can put them back to back, then you put another element here, another element here. If he talks about something, you put it under that one. If there is another thing, so it's just like you're using a chart, right? So charting, we can think about another chart you think about, but it's an approach whereby some they try to use this approach to say, okay, this could be a better approach. And as I said, that it's all about yourself, because there's a problem whereby some will say, okay, we are taking notes, let me use this one, without asking oneself to say, okay, you are using that one. What is the reason that makes you to say, I should use this one, right? So if there's a lecturer, you have to, okay, get the topic. Okay, what is the topic the lecture is about to talk about? Okay, this is the topic. Is it a very complex topic, or is it a normal? So you say, okay, if you know the nature of the topic, you can know that, I think, according to even the person who is speaking, the speaker. So you could be able to say, okay, if the speaker is maybe very fast, I might not get all the information. Let me just use one approach whereby I'll be just getting the main points and connecting. Okay, maybe the speaker is not slow, but the information maybe is complex. Okay, which one? I think I can use this one. Because all these have good advantages and they have good disadvantages. So some might be more advantageous than others. And some are much more, recommended, like the outline. You even see in a lot of places, this is one of the recommended for most, right? In terms of trying to summarize something. The corner is another one. That is one of the most used, right? The others will depend on circumstances, right? To say, according to this one, like this, the charting, you see them even in notes, whereby if they are trying to even compare and they discover if some can have a problem to just read, then they will bring a table somewhere to try to make sure that you see how the demarcations, right? So it's something like that. What else did we go through that time? In this one on the charting, because it's in a chart, as you can see that if you have a table like this one, it's different with what we are maybe talking about, like maybe the mapping where you're going to have a problem. But in the charting, an advantage could be like information here is clearly structured. There's a clear structure of information because you place them, in a way whereby you cannot get the confusion to say where is the other information or linked to, right? So there's the information that is clearly structured, and also it's fantastic for reviewing, right? Because if it's in a chart, no wonder if you check in your notes, if they are comparing, maybe let me say, if they are talking about advantages and disadvantages, they could have a table, a chart like this one, whereby they will indicate advantage, disadvantage. They will be putting back to back, but normally they will have start with the notes. They will have notes, and they knew that, okay, if you just read the notes, you might forget how maybe these are different. This information, then they will have a table to show you. So if there's a table, it's like you can review what was being talked about. Okay, oh, this is exactly like this. Yeah, because we have had scenarios whereby somebody is speaking about something like advantage and disadvantage, and you are getting it clearly. But now, once you are getting it, as the more advantage and disadvantage are coming, you start getting confused, right? So now, when they're just placed on the sedentary table to just show you that all these left their advantages, all this, and sometimes you can even put them directly to the opposite, to say maybe this advantage, the opposite of it is this one, whereby people could see and say, okay, this is a very good approach. So you have that element of being a good style for reviewing if you are trying to pick somebody to review certain information. And also, as I said, that one of the best importance of this would be if there is that comparison, right? If you know that the information that is being talked about today, they are comparing two things or three things, or four things. So if you use a table like this, for example, if they are comparing four things, it means you could put maybe A, B, C, D, right? Then you talk about this, E, then the people, it's easier for you even to compare four things at the same time, even five things. Oh, this is the way they are different, or maybe they are similar, right? So this style could, in terms of comparisons, if there are comparisons, and you are taking those for that, it could be a very good tight style. What else do we have there? Um, so maybe on the disadvantage could be because you have to have maybe to draw a table. So there's an element of time consuming, right? The same, since you have to, first of all, make sure that you have a chart to put information so somebody can start speaking. You are busy trying to create a chart. So that could be a disadvantage. Although sometimes it all talks about how prepared you are, because you don't have to say somebody who want to talk about something you are not prepared, right? You should be able to get ready. So I think this person, it say that he's going to talk about this topic. It might involve maybe this particular aspect. Then you have it already. So that could be a disadvantage. And what else? And this one, although and you already see that because you try to, it's more or less like you are categorizing information. If you have got a table, or a chart where you are going to place a specific information, it means you have categorized that information. That this information is falling under this, right? So if you can have a specific type of information that are difficult to categorize, to say which category can I put this information? This cannot work, because if you draw your table, other information you are placing them under this column. That information you are not so sure where are you going to place it. You don't know where to place it, because you got, because sometimes they say you have information that is clear to tell you that what we are talking about is under this. Sometimes they cannot be clear, right? They will just give you information in general, so you can have a problem if it's that's the type of information you are dealing with. But let's see also another one. Uh, right, I think this is the similar thing. I mean, it will be applicable much more in the lecture that is much more clear with the information, in which you can be able to separate the data that, okay, this is belonging to this. But as long as the information is not clearly discernible to say, okay, this is like this, you can't use this one. You have to just use any other. Even mapping, that can help you. But once you use this one, it means you can separate the information without a problem. As we have been talking about, like even in the boxing, it will be easy in the sense that you put it for all the information under one element in one box. So this is what that approach was about. We already talked about last time when I was reviewing about the outline. I can't go again through it because we went through it a long time. And then I wanted just maybe to finish that. If you remember, we talked about I think the reading textbook, the active reading methods. Then there was the condensation, right? I think that's the one I didn't talk much about, but I said you have time, just a few minutes. I think we're already about that. If you remember, we talked about the condensation, which is similar to what we've been doing, but we say it was like a topic where I said the art of condensation, talking about how do you condense the the knots, right? And in the general sense, we could say that the knot taking process we do is somehow like we are condensing the weight, the weight, right? But somehow when you go to actual condensing, it would mean much more than just like the way we use it to take notes, because it might be much more, compressed. Let me say it's compressed. What we're talking about is, if you talk about, we talked about, I think we talked about abridgment. If you remember, talk about abridgment. If you are summarizing, if you are writing notes, it's mostly like you are summarizing, that's right. But you can have something like a summary. If there can be a book and they say this is a summary could take it's very small space, right? It's just a little bit shorter, very short than if somebody could be told. So can you make maybe an outline, right? But the summary is one of the ways of condensing, whereby you are actually compressing the notes, right? So we talked about like that summary, and if you remember, oh yeah. You can 6. Okay. Okay. If you remember, that's something we talked about this. I think you've seen it. We say that there's that term that is used, and themselves they say seprase. They say like that when you are trying to uh, condense, like say the art of condensing the information, right? Like you're making like more or less like a summary of writing, right? So we say this is much more of helping you if you're making notes from the books, right? You have got a book, then you don't want to like take all the details, right? So what you do, like if you are saying that you are condensing, there's this term we used, we talked about. I think that time there was a abridgment. I was talking about I think we talked about that time of saying there's abridgment. We talked about that term, and we say if you can, even you can check in your on Google when you just say find a certain book and check how many numbers of pages it have, and search the abridged version of the same book. You discover the abridged version of the same book is going to be having lesser pages, right? So what the abridged page, what they do, it's like they could say, okay, we have got this book. Maybe we wanted to you as for example, a particular program, we want you to use this book. But we don't. But it's not everything that is in this book that you need, right? Maybe chapter 1 you need it, chapter 2 you don't need it, or maybe part of chapter 1 you need it. So instead of just giving you the whole book to read everything, you can have a book whereby it can remove all the unnecessary parts. If they know that the part of chapter 1 is not necessary, it will remove that part. So you have all the necessary information combined together. So abridgment is the same thing. When we told you, or maybe when we talk about a specific information from the chapter, we don't need everything, right? So if you are making notes, you might not need everything. So what you have to do in that one, whereby you just have to have a way whereby you get only the main points of that information, right? So usually this one you could think about the book, but in general, if you talk about the conversation, summarizing is just one of them, whereby you will be able to talk about something in the shortest, using the shortest words and in the shortest covering the shortest space. And we talked about what else? We said, I think this was talking about the same, or maybe the what you look out for when you are trying to condense. Whereby we said if you remove other information and you are having the information that you want, you need to observe that the information is complete, right? When you read it, the information should not uh, appear, or it should not be incomplete. Because if you have a certain board of information with main points, sub points, then you just selected the sum, you are assuming that you have summarized it. But something, most important points are missing. Then it's not the way you're supposed to be. So you check about completeness, compactness, conciseness, clarity, coherence. Those are one of the elements that can help you to say, okay, I'll leave other information, I'll take other information, but and the crew of summarizing or compressing your information, if you want to do that, is we say that you don't just copy everything. You use your own language. You just read it, understand what it's talking about, try to use your own words to see how you can make it compact, right? Or how can you tell the same story uh, in the shortest way as possible, right? So that's what we talked about, and maybe to just end up, we talked about the steps of effective per se way of organization or summarizing, whereby we say you identify the reader and the purpose of that write up, right? If you know that what is all we're talking about, then you know what you are looking for, right? So you read the original article, then as you are reading the original article, you'll be noticing the important points. You can know by reading, and when you find an important point or maybe an interesting point, you underline those points, right? You underline as you go down. When you are done, you go back now. You already know that according to this text, the main information are these. This is main information. So for you to come up with like a summary, you just write those main information and try to write them in a way that you are going to be able to connect them, right? As I said, that most of the books that we read, some information are just there to try to explain something. They are not that relevant, right? But they will make you fail to finish the book, right? So that could be one of the ways, right? But I believe that we all have this document, but this document I shared, so that you can go through the rest. I don't think what was the other interesting areas remaining, right? But I think the areas I was thinking that maybe I didn't talk much about are the ones that I talked about. Last time I think I started talking about intensive reading. I did went through it, but the best way is, as I said, go through the slides. Especially if you remember, also there's this area whereby we talked about it's say why should you study, right? And then start their points to say, okay, or how or when should you study, right? I don't know if I put, oh yeah, it's when, because this is the question. So whereby we say that there's a point like study when you are at your best, right? It's not a matter of say we have done that before. People werenga 1 o'clock. Ate tika werenge aliyense group. Iweyo that time watopa, maybe your friend is not top. You'll be forced to go there, but as long as what open, you can't concentrate, right? So we talked about say, if you feel good panopa, I didn't plan to study it now, but I've got time and I'm free. You can use that time to study. We talked about consider your sleeping habits, right? Whereby you don't arrange a time to study when it's the same time that you sleep, right? It will be conflicting. So either you schedule it.